Hey, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Unit 9, Notes 4-1. So today we're going to go a little old school because Miss Humber doesn't have internet. So I don't have access to any of the smart boards I made, but I wanted to make sure I still made you guys a video. So in that multiplying rational expressions box that you have, just going to abbreviate. So in that box that you have, what I want you to do is write down the following steps. So the first thing you're going to do when you're multiplying rational expressions is to multiply the numerator. Okay, multiply the numerator. The second step is to multiply the denominator. So first you're going to multiply what's on top, and then you're going to multiply what's on the bottom. And last but not least, once you've done those two things, you're going to simplify. So this third step, this simplify step right here, is really similar to what you guys have done the past week. Okay, so we first have to multiply to get it to that point, but this is the same as what you've been doing the past week. Okay, all right, let's take a look at some of these examples. You also bear with me because I'm going to have to write them. So for number 1, we have 5ab cubed times, oops, I'm sorry, I am very wrong about that. Number 1, we have 3a cubed over 2a to the 4th times 4a to the 6th over 2a cubed. So what we want to do right now is I want to multiply the numerator. So I'm going to multiply up top to start off with. So I'm going to take 3 times 4, and that's going to give me 12. And then I'm going to take a to the 3rd and a to the 6th. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write all those a's. So I have 3 a's, and then I have 6 a's. Okay, you could also look at that as adding the exponents, which would give you 9 total a's. Then on the bottom, I'm going to take 2 times 2, which is 4. And then I'm going to have 4 a's and 3 a's. So now I want to go through and cross things out. One of the things I noticed on your quiz is that you guys forgot to reduce a lot. So that fraction, yes, you have to reduce the a's, but you also have to reduce that fraction. Okay, so right now we're going to go ahead and reduce 12 divided by 4, which is 3. And now I want to cancel out as many a's as I can. And I notice that I have a on top, and there's 2 of them, so I'm going to have a squared. But it also in this question asks us to state the excluded values. So if you look, I'm just going to write what we had here. This was 12a to the 9th over 4a to the 7th. So I need to set this denominator right here equal to 0 to get that excluded value. So 4a to the 7th is equal to 0. Well, let's set both of these equal to 0. Well, this is never going to happen. Okay, and the only way that's going to be true is if the excluded value, if a is equal to 0. So my excluded value is that a cannot be 0. Okay? Let's take a look at number 2. So for number 2, we have 4b squared over 3b times 6b cubed over 4b squared. So let's multiply the numerator first. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 6 times 4, and that's going to give us 24. B squared times b to the 3rd, when you multiply those, you're going to add those exponents, and that's going to give you b to the 5th. Okay, and then we're going to take 3 times 4, and that's going to give us 12, b to the 3rd. Just for practice sake, let's go ahead and try and get that excluded value right now. So 12b to the 3rd is equal to 0. So let's use that kind of zero product property idea. Excuse me. Well, that's never going to happen. Okay, and the only way b to the 3rd is going to be equal to 0 is if b is equal to 0. So our excluded value is that b cannot be 0. Okay, so next we want to go ahead and reduce this fraction. So first thing we want to do is reduce 24 over 12. Well, both of those are divisible by 6. So I'm going to divide both of those by, oh, I'm sorry, they're both divisible by 12. That would probably be better, huh? So that's going to leave us 2 on top. Next, I have b to the 5th over b to the 3rd. Now, if you need to go and write out all of those b's and cancel them out, feel free to do that. Okay, or you could look at it as subtracting the exponents. So b to the 5th minus divided by b to the 3rd is going to give us b squared. So again, for these, you want to have 2 answers. You want to have your simplified version, and you want to have your excluded value. Let's take a look at number 3. So for number 3, you have negative 2x over 3x to the 4th times negative 4x cubed divided by 2x to the 7th. So first thing we're going to do is multiply out those numerators. So negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. x to the first times x to the third, add those exponents and you get x to the fourth. Okay, 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. X to the fourth times x to the seventh is going to give me x to the 11th. Okay, so let's go ahead and calculate out that excluded value. So we're going to take 6x to the 11th and set it equal to 0. So either 6 equals 0 or x to the 11th is equal to 0. Well, that's never going to happen. So we're going to cancel that out. X to the 11th is equal to 0. Well, the only way that can happen is if x is equal to 0. So our excluded value is that x cannot be 0. Okay, so that's one of the two things we need. The next thing we need is to simplify this right here. So the first thing I want to do is reduce the fraction 8 divided by 6. So when you reduce that fraction, both of those are divisible by 2, and you're left with 4 over 3. Now take a look at these x's here. Again, if you need to write out all the x's and cancel them out, that's fine. Or you could look at it as subtraction. So I would be doing 4 minus 11, which is going to give me a negative 7. But I want it to be positive 7. So I notice that the 11, which is the bigger number, is on the bottom. So my x to the 7th needs to be on the bottom. Okay, so I want you guys to go ahead and try number 4 on your own. So try number 4 on your own. It should be written right there on your note sheet. Okay, let's take a look at number 5. So for number 5, you have 5ab cubed times 16c cubed divided by 8c squared. There should be a separation there. There we are. Times 15a squared b. So now we're going to multiply the top and the bottom. The first thing I'm going to do is take 5 times 16. 5 times 16 is going to give me 80, and then a b cubed c cubed divided by 15 times 8, which is 120, a squared b c squared. So I like to write it out in alphabetical order so I can compare the letters nice and neatly. Okay, so what I end up noticing is that both 80 and 120 are going to be divisible by 40. But before I do that, I want to get my excluded value. So I'm going to take 120 a squared b c squared and set that equal to 0. So I'm just going to set each part equal to 0. Well, this is never going to happen. This means A is equal to 0, this means B is equal to 0, and this means C is equal to 0. So my excluded values are that none of those can be equal to 0. Okay, so now let's go back to the fact that 80 and 120 are both divisible by 40. So we're going to divide both of these by 40, and we're left with 2/3. Now we want to deal with our letters. Here I have a over a squared. So 1 minus 2 is going to give me negative 1. I notice that the bigger amount of a's is on the bottom, so my a to the first is going to be on the bottom. Next, b cubed over b to the first. Subtract those two and I get b squared. C cubed divided by c squared. 3 minus 2 is 1, so here I get c to the first. So this right here is your simplified answer. Remember, you need both of those answers on your worksheet. Okay. Next, let's take a look at number 6. So you have 5c cubed d f squared d cubed. Oops, got to write that out better. C squared d, oops, changed colors on me, divided by c to the fourth d times f squared d to the third c over 10c f cubed. So let's go ahead and write this out. So first we have 5. Now I'm going to take and multiply my c's. So I have c to the third times c to the first. That's going to give me c to the fourth. Then d to the first times d cubed. That's going to give me d to the fourth. And then I have f squared. That's going to be divided by 10. C to the first times c to the fourth. That's going to give me c to the fifth. D f cubed. Okay, so let's go ahead and calculate out that excluded value. So we have 10 c to the fifth d f cubed set equal to 0. Now I'm hoping you're getting to the point where you can just quickly look at that and know that c, d, and f cannot be 0. Okay, those guys cannot be 0. So let's go ahead and finish simplifying that out. 5 over 10, that's going to reduce to 1 over 2. C to the fourth divided by C to the first, that's going to leave me with C cubed on top. D to the fourth divided by D to the first, subtract those exponents, we have D cubed on top. F squared divided by F to the third. So I'm only going to have one F, and the larger amount of the F's are on the bottom. So on the bottom, I'm just going to have F. Okay. All right, let's take a look at number 7. So I'm going to get it started for you, and then I want you to finish it up yourself. So we have this. So let's go ahead and multiply. So 16 times 3 is going to give us 48. Okay, so g squared times g squared, when you add those exponents, you get g to the fourth. H cubed times h to the first is going to give me h to the fourth. 8 times 32 is going to give me 256. 1g on the bottom, h squared times h is h cubed, j squared. Okay, so let's go ahead and reduce this. So I want you to find the excluded values yourself. So go ahead and write out what the excluded values are going to be for me. Okay, and let me help you get started on this one. So first thing you want to do is reduce this fraction right here. And they're actually both divisible by 16, and that's going to give you 3 over 16. So I've given you the reduced fraction. Go ahead and finish up that one on your own. I also want you to do number 8 on your own. Okay? Let's take a look at number 9. So for number 9, we have 24x squared y z cubed divided by 2 times 1 over x squared y cubed z. Don't let these numbers confuse you because they don't have letters. It's really the same thing, but it's actually a little bit easier. So here you get 24 x squared y z cubed, because when you multiply it by 1, it stays the same, divided by 2 x squared y cubed z. Now we want to go and reduce. So we're going to reduce 24 divided by 2, and that's going to give you 12. X squared over x squared is actually just going to cancel out to 1. Here we have y over y cubed, y the first divided by y cubed. That's going to give us y squared. But that y squared has to be on the bottom because that's where the bigger amount of x's are. Z cubed divided by z squared, that's going to give us z cubed divided by z is going to give us z squared on top. My excluded value is if I set this whole thing equal to 0. So then I get that my excluded value is that each of those letters cannot be equal to 0. Okay? Why don't you guys go ahead and do number 10 on your own? Let's take a look at number 11. Okay, so number 11 is actually going to be a little bit easier than the ones we have been doing. So we have x plus 2 over x minus 3 times x minus 3 over x plus 4. So when you're multiplying these, really all you're doing is taking that multiplication symbol out and writing them as one fraction. So set the denominator equal to 0 to get your excluded values. So then you get x minus 3 is equal to 0 and x plus 4 is equal to 0. So your excluded values are that x cannot be 3 or negative 4. Now coming back up here, again, we can cancel those overlapping factors and we're left with x plus 2 over x plus 4. And that's our final simplified version right here. Let's take a look at number 13, do number 12 on your own. So what I'm going to do is as I'm writing this down, I'm going to write it all down as one big long fraction. Because when we're multiplying them together, all we're really doing is writing them down as one fraction when we multiply them. That's what multiplying does. Okay, so to get our excluded values, oops, we're going to set both of those equal to 0. So then for our excluded values, we get that x cannot be 4 or 2. Okay, so then the last thing we want to do is cancel out those overlapping factors. All right, so that's going to cancel this, and you're left with what? So I want you to write what you're left with, and then I want you to do number 14 on your own. Okay, so thanks for listening, and that isn't a 2 there. Let's just get rid of that. Thanks for listening. Show me your completed note sheet when you're done.